Howdy folks, today I wanted to have a quick discussion about the changes to nicerl2 with HEAsoft version 6.29. I've had about 2 weeks or so now to work with HEAsoft version 6.29 and nicerl2 with reducing some data. And I want to just have a quick discussion about it because anytime there are some of these changes with HEAsoft or with any other programs, people get very confused, and there is always a ton of questions. And so I want to address some of those here for everyone in this video. Before we do that, though, I need to preface that I am not affiliated with NASA, the Goddard Space Flight Center, HEASARC, or the NICER mission or team in any way whatsoever. I am an independent researcher who utilizes NICER data and HEAsoft to conduct my own research of neutron stars, pulsars, and supernova remnants. Now, before we go any further, also, I do want to say that this page will be linked in the description down below. This is the nicerl2 documentation page with F-tools. I could not find any new documentation on the NICER data analysis guide or the NICER data analysis threads. So that being said, I will end up leaving this link in the description down below for all of you to look at. You can see this is for nicerl2. They give an example about how to run it at the very bottom, and then they give you a list of parameters that you're going to be able to change really quickly and very easily. Alright, really quickly before we go any further, I was more or less completely done editing this video when I received an email from the NICER email list stating that there are 2 known issues with nicerl2 in HEAsoft version 6.29, and there is a patch for those 2 problems with HEAsoft version 6.29a. I'll leave this link down below for you to get this patch. You simply just have to download the patch installer shell script and run it. It is very simple, very straightforward. It takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. The 2 issues that this is going to fix is that right here you see the CalDB version is blank or indef, and it is going to fix that issue. So now you are going to see which CalDB version you are running. Additionally, there is a problem with NICER prefilter that is sometimes crashing nicerl2 or NICER prefilter and is leading the process to not actually reduce any of your data. I was reducing a lot of data prior to recording this video, and when doing so, I noticed that 1 in about every 15 to 20 observations were not going through the proper data reduction stage. So this patch will fix that. Again, I'll leave this in the description. It'll be the first link down there, right above the documentation. Like I said, would be there. Okay, that being said, let's resume this video. Now, the first really big change to nicerl2 is that you are able to select which tasks are going to be performed with nicerl2. There are 3 of them. There is cal merge, which is going to run nicercal and nicer_mpu merge. There is mkf, which is going to run the prefilter and prefilter2. And there is screen, which is going to run nicer make time and nicer merge clean. All of these tasks run normally in previous versions of nicerl2. So if you're used to just typing in nicerl2, setting an input directory, and then clobber equals yes, these are the same stages that are going to run, or the same tasks that are going to run. If we go over here to a terminal window where I was previously earlier today running nicerl2, you can see that there is now this requested task operations line right here in the terminal window, and you can see it's mkf, cal merge, and screen. I just used nicerl2 in the same way as before, typing in nicerl2, setting an input directory, and then clobber equals yes, and it defaults to all of them just like it would with other previous versions of nicerl2. Really, this tasks parameter is for people who are dealing with very, very large data sets. Maybe something goes wrong in the data reduction and they don't feel the need to run cal merge or run mkf or run screen, and it generally runs in that order. You can see here is nicer cal, and then nicer MPU merge. So the first stage is going to be cal merge, the second one will be mkf, and then the last one is screen. You can see I also did a bury center correction here, but I completely digress from that point. This is actually run from a command line application I created to automatically run nicerl2 with auto-retrieved data sets, but that's for a different day. If you want to actually see that code or to get access to that code, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll work on creating a more user-friendly version of that and put that up on my GitHub page and maybe do a video about it. But again, I'm completely digressing. So like I said, tasks parameter, you can go ahead and you can just type in tasks equals and then type in which tasks you want in all capitals. The other big change to nicerl2 is that there are now new over only and I believe under only ranges. You can change those parameters by typing in over only underscore range and under only underscore range. I have only had to mess with those a few times before. Actually, if we go to the parameters here, and you can see here that there is the under only range and the over only range. You can mess with those parameters if you like. I've only had to do that once for a very, very, very low count rate observation that was being basically over filtered. But for the most part, you won't have to change those. In the Nicer webinar or online conference, I don't remember what it was, but previously this May in 2021, there was a discussion that basically these ranges were a little bit too constraining, and they basically loosen some of the constraints on these parameters because there was some over-filtering taking place. So that's beneficial to everybody, but I don't think that too many people are going to find a problem with that. The last really big change is filter file columns. Now, for those of you that have run nicerl2 with HEAsoft version 6.27 or HEAsoft version 6.28, those filter files are not going to be able to be used with HEAsoft version 6.29 unless you specify them. So you can see that there's this filter columns parameter, and our default is Nicer version 3. Back in the terminal window, you can see that right here for the pre-filter columns and the pre-filter 2 columns, it's defaulting to Nicer version 3. If you're going to want to use Nicer version 2 or Nicer version 1 with data that you maybe processed with HEAsoft version 6.27 or HEAsoft version 6.28, you're going to want to change that filt columns parameter to Nicer v1 or Nicer v2. Additionally, though, we have Nicer v3, 3c50, and that's for those of you guys doing some work where you're needing background columns based upon the 3c50 model. So if you guys are using the 3c50 model and you're doing stuff with a background, you're going to want to change your filter columns or the filt columns parameter to Nicer v3, 3c50. I'm not doing anything with the 3c50 model, so that's not anything that I need to worry about particularly. Nicer v3 filt columns works perfectly fine for me. But those are really the only major changes to nicerl2. If you have any questions regarding nicerl2, let me know in the comment section down below. Again, I will leave this documentation in the description down below so that you can take a look at it. I recommend that you follow NASA and Nicer's and HEAsarc's directions on how to use nicerl2. Take what I say with a grain of salt, of course, but if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. But those are really the only big changes to nicerl2 with HEAsoft version 6.29. That'll do it. I just wanted to make this quick video to maybe have a discussion with all of you about some of these changes, because I know that there can always be a little bit of fear and a little bit of confusion when it comes to these changes, but that really doesn't need to be there. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you here again next time.